random. It's not that random, but this is like a surprise live stream. If you happen to tune in from anywhere, we are going live and recording a new episode. So welcome everyone to the AI Academics Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Lennart Nacke. This is a show where my co-host Vugar Ibrahimov and I geek out about the latest AI developments without getting too scientific. We want to help you get the valuable insights from AI and actionable strategies about AI that actually matter. So grab a coffee with us, tune in, and let's chat about why AI isn't the job-stealing monster that everyone thinks it is. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to hit subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get started. Hey, Vugar.
Hey,
This
Lennart.
is so random. We're just like, okay,
Yeah,
let's record an episode. Why not?
random,
Look
but
at us.
our weekly,
Yeah.
let's say, chatting about the AI.
Yeah, it's
But
always good to chat about what's happening. And I think you got some questions. I got some questions from people online about some of the tools and the things that are happening. So this is our rough plan for today. So if you're just tuning in right now, feel free. Of course, you can always pop into the chat. I always find it like interesting if somebody just like happens to stumble upon a stream or something like that, and then they're just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to stick around. So maybe stick around, send us your questions in the chat if you want. If you are here to hang with us for a little bit. Happy 4th of July if you're in the United States. Today is a celebration. So definitely just hang with us for the next half-ish hour while we go through some of these things. So first, we wanted to chat a little bit about Notebook LM. And so Vugar just showed me something really cool in Notebook LM. Do you want to walk us through it? I was just going to see if I could look at this cool umbrella review paper that we wrote.
yeah,
I'm just going to try and get that in there.
yeah. I think
But
for those who are just listening to this podcast, I think they should visit either
yeah,
yours or mine YouTube pages on YouTube to see what we are doing on screen. But we will try
yes.
to cover to the best extent what we are doing here and to explain it for our just listeners. But those
Yes,
who are watching us on YouTube or on different platforms, so they will
you
see
can
what we
see
will
what we're
do. Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
you will be able to see. So
Okay.
I think Samira,
So,
already we have one comment from Samira.
okay.
Hi, Samira.
This-
Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us today.
Oh yeah, you totally stumbled, just like just like us. We totally stumbled
Yes.
into this too. We just decided, like hit the button. Let's hit the button and go live and see what's up. Thank you so
Ex-
much for tuning in. And Samira, if you have any questions while we demo some of this stuff, let us know. This is weird systematic review. Oh, discuss systematic reviews.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the this was like in a different thing right now. So
Yes.
yeah, now I have the right thing, and now I can. Where is it? Where is my mind map button? You said there was a mind map button
I
somewhere over
think
here.
you should go up a little bit with scroll
Study
up
guide.
in the middle
Delete
center.
all notes. Let me just start from scratch.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can also, but go up here. I think you should be able to see, no, up, scroll up.
Yeah, but this is from a different paper here. This was another paper I had
No,
in
no,
there
no. Just you will
before.
see the button here, just upside of
Oh,
with
mind
the
map.
mind map. Yes, and if you
Okay.
click
Well,
on
maybe I have
it,
to refresh it then because
yes, you can do that.
this is, yeah, okay. I did have to refresh it. That's what it was because we tried it with a different article before. And now I can hit the mind map button, right? Like this
Yeah,
was what we were getting
I
all
think
excited
before
about
hitting
earlier
that,
because we're like, mind maps. Okay. So
but maybe
let's
we
get
should
them in
talk
the
about
notes.
what we can do. What we can do generally with the
Yes.
so
Show
notebook
us.
LM. It's
Actually, I'm going
basically
to show, and you're going to look at this amazing umbrella review study. I wonder who worked on that.
yes,
It's our study. Okay. Anyways, so this was one
hidden
of my
promotion.
former postdocs. She's a professor now. Did this amazing study on reporting quality in systematic reviews, and so yeah. So here we can see what the point of this umbrella review was: assess
So
the
maybe
reporting
we should first
quality.
talk about what you did, Leonard. You just
Yeah, you tell.
open the notebook LM, so you can upload PDFs and you can basically ask questions about the PDFs here. But in my experience, I should say that if you upload multiple PDFs at the same time and ask questions, you can tick on them. If there's
Yeah.
one PDF, you can still tick, but if there is multiple PDFs, you can tick the PDF that you want Notebook LM answer to your questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So,
here
but
we have one PDF.
because I clicked on mind map, right? So I uploaded a PDF of a paper, and then I clicked on mind map, and then I get this really cool mind map topological overview of what's in the paper, right? And
Exactly.
then what's the next step? Like, what do we use that for? I mean, everyone loves a good mind map, but like, what's the
Exactly.
yeah,
In usually in books or in articles, you have this the table of contents, or at least the structure, the table of the structure. What about this paper is or this book is. But for
yeah,
example, in my experience, I was working a lot with the laws and with the regulations, which doesn't have this kind of table of contents in the beginning, and I just you can do this mind map creation with any document. So I
hmm,
was uploading the laws and regulations in order, at least right in the beginning, if I don't have any idea about the laws, in order to go through all the whole document
yeah,
myself. It gives me the kind of table of contents, kind of
hmm,
mind map here, with the hidden subsections. If you click on this little arrow button there, it opens the subheadings or subsections from
yeah,
that
these
book
ones,
or from that law or regulation, which I find this useful because right before you have kind of a map of the document you are working on, and
yeah,
you can exactly and at the same time check what section talks about what, and you feel kind of, so before not having this, you can feel like I'm lost a bit. It's if it is very long document. I was working on
yeah.
very long documents, very long regulations, and it was helpful in my experience. But
I mean, our
interaction,
document is pretty, I mean, it's not
how many
short.
pages it is?
Let's see, 55, right? So,
55. So it's still the long article it is. We can consider that long one. And it is definitely useful, for example, with PDFs, like if it is more than 100 pages and so on.
yeah.
But I have to mention this, that the
So what
asking
is it?
questions. Yeah,
Can
tell
you
me.
just explain to me what is it actually doing here? Like it is checking for the section headers, and
Exactly.
then
Checking the section
within those,
headers
it's trying to
and
find the
subheadings,
okay. So
and
it's
also creating this map for you, kind of giving you, like, guiding you through the document. And you can
mm,
if you specifically looking for something in the document, you can just click on these little arrows and to see what about the next section is talking about. And
hmm,
but the problem, I think, with the PDFs, I was not fully satisfied with the answers of the Notebook LM. I think I have to mention that because,
hmm,
in my experience, the Google AI Studio definitely giving me better answers than
yeah,
Notebook LM if you are working at the same time with multiple documents. Because,
yeah,
but I have to mention this again: there is no AI tool, at least in my experience, that fully read and scan each all PDFs word by word and give you the best answer. You still have to read the document you are working on. You
hmm,
still you still because I personally tested it. Like, I read the article that's printed out and read it fully, and I know which answers are there in the article. And I asked the LLM, so this Notebook LM, but their answer is not as satisfactory as any professional would give me. So.
Well, yeah, I think what happens here is like this also happened when I just clicked on stuff. It says discuss what sources about methodology in the larger
Mhm.
context, blah blah blah. And so it does, I mean, it still does this beautiful thing where you can click on it and you
Yes.
can see where it comes from, right? I think that's really the major advantage of Notebook LM is that you click on the little numbers after each generated thing that they
But
have.
they are, I have to
No.
mention here again one point. These numbers are not always 100% correct. You know,
Hmm.
if,
Okay.
for example, it gives you an answer, but sometimes it marks the wrong place. Maybe
Yeah,
that
I've seen that too.
information,
Yes.
that information in that document, but it marks the long place for that answer.
Yeah.
You have to manually
Yeah.
maybe search for that information, which I have done.
Yeah.
So
You have,
this is, I
yeah.
think, still useful, really useful,
Yeah.
working with multiple documents, but
Yeah.
with serious works, like if you are writing your dissertation, your thesis, just
Yeah.
uploading documents and asking questions, so this notebook LM would not suffice for that, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. We did have a question. First of all, hi to everyone that's saying hi. So nice. Definitely take the time and pop in, and if you have any questions, ask them in the chat. So hi, Krista. We had a question from Behram here asking that he's used Litmap for mind map making. Now you have to understand, that's not mind maps. That is basically clustered research maps that you have here. And he's asking, how can we become a critical thinker with such AI tools? Now, as you might know from some of these studies that are out there, mind maps in general maybe help you simplify some rather complex concepts for you, and make it easier to understand. As you can see when you're opening these mind maps, right? Like it helps you drill down in a topic, and that's kind of nice. But does that make you a critical thinker? Absolutely not. No, like a critical thinker is basically something you have to do on your own. You can't do that with AI, right? Like what you can do is you can feed a document. We could try that if you want to, right? Like we could let's go to AI Studio, because that's free, right? And let's just see if we can pull this off, because it was his question. Sure, I have the rights to this. We wrote the document. And then we're just going to tell the AI, and again, it all comes down to prompting, right? Like essentially, you could buy, 100 of these fancy AI research tools that people will, tell you to get. And we even have a research tool webinar up here that you can scan if you want to, where we discuss some of the ones that we use. And we're currently actually working on an update. We can't really announce it yet. It's still in the wraps, but something's coming. Do we want to do a little teaser? I'll do a little teaser. It'll be called AI Summer Camp. Vugar is going to get added to that as well. And then we want to chat about some of the updates, but also one of the things that we do want to mention there is that specifically for lit reviews, you can use a tool like Litmap, super useful to help you drill down with some of these cluster topics and see these citation networks and understand how that works. That's different from a mind map, or different even from conceptualizing stuff. And so one of the things that we can do is we can use the existing frontier LLMs, which is kind of, I think that's the second point that we have in here, or a third point.
Yes.
So we have some demos before we actually get to this. But you can basically just use the basic frontier LLMs instead of custom tools. So that means you can use Claude, you can use ChatGPT, or you can use Gemini, or in this case, aistudio.google.com is one of our favorites, because, we can play around with stuff like temperature right here. And we can play around with thinking
and
modes.
temperature is about creativity. You adjust
Yeah.
the degree of the creativity by, I think, and in my experience, 1.5 was usually doing the best.
Gotcha.
Like in the
So
middle, not so creative, not so in the middle somewhere, would always doing the better job. I would believe with the AI Studio.
Yeah, so let's pop in. Let's pull this up again, so we don't completely use it. But so here, Behram asks, how do you become a critical thinker? So you can't become a critical thinker, but you can use this PDF as your knowledge source to quiz me about how much I understand and reflect upon, and then topic here. In this case, our topic is umbrella reviews and system. Actually, let's say
that's a hard
systematic
question. I
reviews.
think AI
Yeah, but let's
doesn't
just
make
give it a
us.
shot. Let's
Yeah,
just give it a shot. Because essentially what I want you to do, what you can use it for in this regard, is I mean, in this case, you still have to read the paper, right? Like everyone's looking for shortcuts and summaries for papers. There really is none, right? Like you can, if you do an umbrella review or like a larger review or systematic review, as you know, a lot of times people really just read the abstract and just kind of work from that. And that's fine. But what we want to do a lot of the times is we want to reflect upon the stuff that we've just read. So yeah, you can use AI for that and just kind of help you get kickstarted a little bit in your own reflection process. And for that, it's always good to do these interviews. And as you can see, AI is usually a little bit overeager. So in this case, Gemini is, of course, overeager. It's like, I can create a quiz. I know exactly what that is. Okay. So then basically, because now it's created a quiz and that's not what we want, engage in.
Are you using 2.5 for this now?
I'm using 2.5 Pro, yeah, up here. Yeah. I should probably do Flash. I mean,
and with multiple PDF, there is something different model there. And also, if you work on one PDF and if you need deep reasoning, there is another model for that. I think the proper one should be selected beforehand.
So we need to describe the process more. So then we say, engage in discussion with me about this now. Your job, giving it a job is always good, is to ask me questions to see how much I reflect on this study and wait for my answers to then ask me another follow-up question to get me to reflect even more. Let's see. Again, because we're using 2.5 Pro, it'll be a little bit longer. Flash would be nicer, and maybe I'll switch to Flash in a hot second. Pro is just a little bit more reflective in the way it engages with us, right? But one of the nice things here could really be to go into this back and forth. And if you have any tool where you get some of that feedback, then yeah, it really helps you reflect on this. So here, let's begin with the foundation. The authors invest a huge amount of effort, which is true. Each of us actually did a large chunk of this stuff, and we had this giant Google document, which I think Katja actually ended up giant spreadsheet, right? Like that she actually ended up sharing, I think, in the additional materials. So in your own words, what's the fundamental problem they identified with systematic reviews in HCI that made all this work seem necessary to them? So for this, of course, you're gonna have to have read the paper, but we could then say the fundamental problem was, or one of the problems was, and just so that you know, we can show that at the very beginning, because that's usually how these papers are structured. So here you can see this actually gives you a good idea of like how you should structure this stuff too. Yeah. So here you can see in our first paragraph, we already introduced that. So we basically talk about the benefits. Then we talk about what is good about systematic reviews. And here we say that it's a rigorous reporting. And here is the counterpoint. Yet in our experience as researchers, there seems to be a lot of confusion about reviews as a systematic methodology. This part is partly driven by problems with terminology. So again, if you would have read the paper, you could then go back in here and you say there, I feel like there are problems with methodology in this field. And then you could keep going on. I think like if I keep doing this, we're going to be here like half an hour and you know, just keep talking about this. But basically, that's what you could do. I feel like there are problems with methodology in this field, and I would want to understand these problems more in detail. Right, and then we could just go boom. We could just keep going on that discussion if we wanted to, and then we could engage in this reflective dialogue. So it's basically as if you're chatting with somebody that has knowledge about the paper, and here we get the confirmation, which is nice. Yeah, core theme is problems with methodology. The authors would agree, so this is also nice because it kind of gives you that reflection. Oh yeah, I'm not completely off, but problems with methodology can mean many things. So ChatGPT now becomes a bit more, or not ChatGPT, this is Gemini, sorry.
Mm.
Gemini becomes a little bit more inquisitive here and asks us, so does it mean people are doing the wrong steps, or that the steps are fine, but they're not describing them well? Based on the paper's focus, which of those two issues do you think was the primary driver for this study? Why did they choose to look at reporting quality specifically rather than, say, the quality of the conduct itself? So it already kind of hints at the answer here and kind of really helps you understand. So again, engaging in this type of chat, I mean, we could do this for the next half hour, but we're not going to because we got other stuff to cover. But this is a nice way for you to engage in a reflective dialogue with the paper. And I think that could be kind of a fun way. And again, AI Studio is free, right? Like upload the paper.
But maybe here I can say that we will cover this one extensively in our coming AI summer camp. Just a small spoiler about our upcoming event. But we will extensively cover this Google AI Studio, which I believe definitely doing better than the Notebook LM, at least in my experience. I will definitely share the whole details, how it did better than Notebook LM.
Yeah.
But we will talk about it later.
Yeah, and we don't have a link to announce it yet, but if you are purchasing the old one, you're of course getting a special offer for the new one. So if you have already purchased the old one, then stay tuned. Here's the QR code. I'm going to pop that in the top corner as well. But yeah, definitely make sure to check that out if you are interested. And hopefully some of that stuff has helped Behram understand how to do that critical investigation. We had a couple more comments. I've extensively used Notebook LM for teaching and research. I agree that it marks the wrong place sometimes. Came in handy for me for checking my citations for research articles. I think that definitely is a good way to go about it. And then Samira also says, mind maps help me synthesize and organize information in my brain. I think that's true for a lot of people, right? Like just if we look at how nice that is and like how easy it is to do the drill down. I actually kind of really like the animations here too, I gotta admit.
Yes.
And so yeah,
and
it's
you
really
can also download the whole opened map as one image file if you want to, or you can even print it out if you are working on something big document. And I think we also have one question from Samira asking what's the difference between Google AI and so AI Studio of the Google
AI Studio, So AI Studio, we should probably mention for the people that is listening to this and not looking at it. So AI Studio, if you go to that, you can actually select the different models in there and usually get access to the preview models as well, which is kind of cool. So, you know, we get the flashlight and the other previews. Right now, there's no cool previews, but sometimes Google will release a preview model that might not even be accessible in Gemini as well. And you get it through the AI Studio, and then you can work with that. Keep in mind, anything you do here doesn't get saved, right? So once you close your browser,
you can do that.
You can, you can up here, you can make a copy, or you can save the prompt, but you have to do it manually, right? Like if you don't.
No, there's also option, I think, where it can also automatically save anything you do. There's upper right corner. I think you have to adjust from
auto
the
save. Okay.
Yes.
I have that turned on, but I think that's by default that's turned off.
Yeah, if it is by default it is usually turned off. I think, but here we have to also mention that with Google Gemini 2.5, you have like 1 million tokens here.
Yeah.
It affects the number of pages of the documents you can upload. But if you select, for example, 1.5, which is the older model, you can have more token limits. It goes up to 2 millions, which means I think more than 1,000 pages you can upload at the same time and to interact with.
But the nice thing is the token count gets updated up there as well, right? So you can see the token count, and even as you're typing stuff in here, the token count will update, and you can actually see how many tokens are going to be used as part of this chat. And you can see this was a pretty long paper, but we're only at 18,000 token count, right? So it's like you can have several of these and can really like go hog on it if you wanted to. So in terms of like, is it different? So it's not, I think Notebook LM is like a slightly different product. I don't actually, Vugar, do you know what's the underlying? Are they using Gemini as the underlying LLM for Notebook LM, or is it? I think
yes.
Is it?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. I think because
we're gonna have to check that out.
But I think my personal, to be honest, I am not 100% sure about it. But I think yes, they do. But I think in the near future they will kind of consolidate these old three tools, maybe under one interface, which you can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but right now, seemingly, Google has totally different three interfaces for its LLMs.
Hmm.
Like it's the usual Gemini interface looks like very much like ChatGPT, which I think we didn't open it today, and
Mm.
now we have Google LM, Notebook LM, and also Google AI Studio, three different tools from Google, and I think Google is really catching up
Yeah, it
with
is.
ChatGPT, but
It's the
ChatGPT is
money.
still enjoying the
Yeah.
this first comer advantage,
Yeah.
but Google has the massive infrastructure, massive
Yeah.
uh, financing, and therefore I think they will continue to deliver good stuff here. I think for
Yeah.
Google AI for today it's enough. Maybe we can go to our
Yeah,
next one.
it
We
was.
have a
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
one more question. I think here: should medicine healthcare individuals rely more on AI-based tools for studies, research like vaccine development and autoimmune research, disease research? What would you advise that AI-based tools could be better in medical science and technology fellows? So I don't think, and I think this is something we mentioned at the beginning. I don't think it really depends on what your background is for these tools and for these studies. Any scientist, any researcher that wants to use them still has to do the due diligence, right, and has to make sure that whatever gets synthesized, whatever approach gets used, is still validated based on the resources that come forward. And I think that's really the important part here. What we're showing in some of these tools is really just how you can speed up some of the things that you would just do manually, like stuff like what I just did here in Notebook LM, which was, if we just click on it again, I just hit this timeline button, and then based on the paper, it gives me literally the timeline within which stuff was done. Now, of course, I'd still have to validate that timeline, but this is based on the cited studies and other things that are put forward here. But it also gives you kind of an idea of how systematic, like, because this is our paper, it was about systematic reviews. So this kind of breaks down how people have become more rigorous with introducing these different frameworks for systematic reviews, with using different what do you call it, evaluation frameworks and other things that are then accessible there for you. So is to come back to that question, is it really does it really matter what tool you use? I think at the beginning, like one of the things that you might have missed that we said is, and that we'll talk about a bit more today, is you don't really need any tools. You just need to have a Frontier LLM and just kind of play around with it. Again, like Notebook LM is actually free. To just go to this other question here, what is it exactly, how to install? There's nothing to install. So really, you can, for this one, you just go to notebooklm.google.com, sign in with your Google account. And for the other one, you go to aistudio.google.com and again, sign in with your Google account, and you can play around with them. Now, keep in mind, nothing in life is ever free. There's probably some information that gets forked over in the background there. So, that's always
And
something to keep in mind. When you're
yeah,
playing with Google, you're playing with data.
and here I have to mention this cliche. Usually in all law
Mm.
schools, you hear that if you are not paying for the product, you are yourself a
You are
product.
the product.
So
Exactly.
this
This
is,
is how it
I think
goes.
we
Yeah.
have to mention that. And
Yeah.
and also another important point about the Gaurav's questions.
Mm.
It's if you are working something. So I know that in many companies here in Germany, in many countries, the big enterprises, the companies have already forbidden using these frontier tools for company
Yeah.
purposes. You
Mhm.
cannot even upload any PDF or any document with very delicate information on it. The
Mhm.
very kind of financial secret information on it, and you cannot
Yeah.
do that. You cannot work on it, and therefore you have to be a little bit careful as well. For example, if you are working on vaccine development, you have to have
Mhm.
patent in there. But
Yeah.
right before having patent, but the answer on the LLM, because we really do not have 100% answer to the question if they are fairly playing with our information on these tools. For
Mhm.
example, I wouldn't upload my own dissertation before publishing onto any AI tool, and I would
Yeah.
definitely do not suggest anyone to do that because I myself 100% do not trust. And this point I think should be born on everyone's mind that if you are working on a very serious project, you have to have that on mind. Of course, you can use for multiple purposes, which I also did, but the end result, you should keep that. You should, if it is patented stuff, you have to have your patent on it first, and then you can freely work on it with AI tools. I think that's, and maybe there's some kind of specific AI tools can come for these specific purposes. I don't know any yet, but for
Mm.
example, on legal issues, like in court cases, it's also delicate issues. There's multiple AI corporations like big four companies in consulting companies like PwC and others.
Yeah.
They are doing their own research with LLMs, with AI, to come up with a specific tool, for example, for the legal purposes. And it is true, it is same for other segments, for other research areas as well. And I think we should have that on our mind. So, what's
Yeah.
our second point? What do you have
Yeah,
here?
I was going to say, we did only want to keep this shorter
Yes.
today. So the next thing I want to talk about is GenSpark AI, which was kind of funky. What did we do? Maybe I can find it. So the interface is not the greatest in terms of like finding what I'm actually doing, but it has these super agents, which is kind of cool. Oh, I guess I'm sharing the wrong screen. Hold on, let me just replace this with my actual GenSpark browser. So GenSpark actually lets you download a browser. So here we go with the GenSpark browser, and then essentially gives you a super agent. And this is interesting right now, or one of the ways why we found that interesting is because I think right now we paid something like $20 a month for it because they're really trying to push their product. And then you can actually select the frontier models right from there. And again, usually you'd pay $20 for each of those subscriptions. So you'd pay, and again, they're not paying us right now, right? Like we didn't. This is not an advertisement, or it was just something we stumbled across. Was that here I can actually select O3 Pro, which until recently I paid 200 USD a month for. So that's a bit ridiculous to get access to a frontier model like that right from here, which is amazing. Or you could use the standard GPT-4.1. Again, please, OpenAI, fix your version numbering. It is driving us nuts. And then you can get the Claude model, and you can get the one that we just demoed, the Gemini 2.5 Pro model, or even use a DeepSeek implementation. Although I am not sure, are they using the DeepSeek implementation from DeepSeek, or are they running their own implementation? Because in theory, you could do that if you wanted to. And then, of course, you can tie it to a web search if you wanted to, but not all models have that enabled. So, for example, if you're using O3 Pro, you can not search the web. You get that little thing here. But then, of course, here, similar to what we just demoed, you could upload stuff, and you could easily get documents in here and do chats and things like that. It has sort of these slide creation things. So here it tells you, oh, there's a new control, and you can do even more for your slides. But basically, we could say we are teaching, not that we're going to do that, we are teaching an AI summer camp, end of the month, end of this month. And we would love some slides that explain how, whoops, learn how to spell Leonard, how LLMs work. Boom, send that off and see if it can figure it out. And then what happens is, and this is with any sort of agentic tool that you use, it usually goes into thinking mode, and sometimes it gives you a little bit of feedback of what it's doing. And you can see how it basically sends separate queries. So a lot of these agent tools are all about sending these separate queries. And then the queries produce results. And then based on those results, maybe another query is introduced. And then so basically here, what happens is one agent might have the job of being the researcher and then going about doing the research, bringing in the information that's necessary for that research. And then here, the GenSpark might decide we need one agent for each slide. So then, okay, now we need to have an agent that takes care of designing the slide and then just creating that. And one agent takes care of shortening the slide or something like that. So basically, every query becomes sort of a little thing on its own, which is kind of nice. And that is something that, just makes it so much more powerful than if you just open a regular ChatGPT window and just put in your query there. Because now, as you can see here, this is going to take a while. It just kind of does its thing in the background. You can see here, essentially what it does is it creates an HTML file that is then styled and made look like a slide. And I think it's doing that for separate slides, or it's refining it, I think, as it's going over this. And so it will do that for every slide. And sometimes this can take up to half an hour. So we can always come back to this later if we wanted to, as it's trying to refine. Oh, yeah, and there you go. So it has refined the slide, and it started with the title slide, and then it will keep generating each of the follow-up slides now. And again, can take, a much longer time than your regular LLM query. The simplest form of an agentic query that you might have already seen is the deep research functionality that you see in a lot of those LLMs, right? You can see deep research in Gemini or other things, and then again, you wait 10 minutes and something comes back. In one of our previous episodes, we also discussed Perplexity and the labs functionality in Perplexity, which is a similar form of an agentic AI that just goes off on the research query and just does a lot of independent things before coming back to you. And those slides aren't great by any means, but it's definitely a nice way to get started. And even if we just use them as inspiration, we could now get started with some of that stuff. It even does like a nice little flow chart and things like that. So it's really kind of cool if you think about it. I wouldn't, take these slides and present them to students in a class, but how often do we sit down there and we kind of have an idea? And in this case, I just did a general query, but usually I think what I would recommend for a general workflow is you go into Gemini Deep Research and then you match that to your own thinking or background documents that you have. You get the results that you get from that, and then you put that in the prompt that you would feed to GenSpark, for example. And then GenSpark would go off and have much more contextual information that it could then work to generate some of these slides for you, which is kind of cool. And then you can do sheets and other stuff here. You can do docs now, which is, I think, something that we tried here for mine. So what I did is essentially I fed it my LinkedIn page, and I said, you know what, LinkedIn page. It went and crawled my LinkedIn page, returned some information. But then Vugar and I had a really good chuckle about this because, it did highlight some of the stuff that is correct, like definitely core competencies and things like that. And, even some other stuff that I don't even think I have on there or that I would put in a CV. Like I have a huge following on social and stuff like that. And then even found like email addresses and things, and then it does some weird stuff like technical university. Not quite sure where it got the dates for that, but that is absolutely incorrect. In 2000, I was still in high school and just finishing. So unless somehow I aged myself another 10 years, it's just like, okay. So and this is where it gets tricky, right? Like if it hallucinates with your CV, that's not really something that you want. So and Vugar, you had some comment about that as well. You were like, this is a nice idea. It's not perfect yet. No. So
to be honest, why not use just ChatGPT for this?
Exactly.
But with the slides, maybe it can do nice job there. But you can also download those slides, the presentation, and work on it manually. Yes, after having.
So after you're done with them, because it's HTML, I think it is.
Would be nice if you can download it as PPT file, then you can work on it. Then it would be nice. But if not,
I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah, like exactly. You want basically the capability to edit that stuff right away, right? Because
exactly.
It's nice to have it, and it's nice because it has a fact check button here, so you can do a fact check. So it'll do a web search and check some of that stuff, and you can edit inside of the tool. So you can select something and re-prompt it, right? Like I could select something here. So it's literally for zero design skills. If you have any design skills, you're going to be frustrated because you're going to have to use what it uses, and you can see just the way it formats the boxes and stuff. Like this is the kind of React formatting that you usually get out of Claude and other things. And like a lot of the stuff is beautiful, but I would love for this to just export into even just to Google Docs, right? Like, and as soon as
Yes,
Google comes up with a competitor, which I'm sure they will very
documentation.
soon, they will probably have this as well. Because right now the document and slide generation in Google Drive is not really good. But if they had something that's more agentic like this, and then you could just edit it right there, that would really be something. But yeah, from what we're seeing right now, this is not it yet. So we'll still have to wait. And
I think
yeah,
we have
that brings us.
one question here, which
Oh
is
yeah, question.
related to our today's discussion's third part, I would say.
Okay,
Uh,
this one
Doctor,
here. No. Yeah.
yeah, this one.
Okay.
I think you are saying AI research tools. What is included here for research? How many applications? Any coding required? Or so. Um, I
Yeah.
think the today's discussion's third part. This question is relevant one.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't use any AI tools and only the frontier apps like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, Claude
These
AI,
ones.
Google's. But maybe very occasionally I used the consensus or SciSpace for my own
Yes.
research, and
Yeah.
I've never used any AI tools for the assistive writing
Yeah.
because I'm still not sure about it. But what do you think? What's the main problem about here? But so we don't mean any applications. We don't mean so there are a lot of chat GPT wrappers in the market.
May, I
Like
was actually thinking, Vugar, maybe this is related to the QR code that we have here. When we're because this AI research tools things that's like our old
ah
webinar, right? And
maybe I
maybe
misunderstood
it's
it. Yeah.
related to that. I don't know, but yeah.
Maybe if you are asking which tools included our webinar, you can
Yeah.
just scan the code. You see, you can.
Yeah.
I think
You
we
can see on the
mentioned
slide.
all tools that we covered in our webinar.
Yeah.
Basically, the all famous tools, all the most
Yeah.
relevant ones, we
But
covered in our webinar.
yeah, and this is what the ticker says on the bottom. But if you're interested in sort of a more back to basics approach, this webinar we recorded like a year ago, and lots of stuff has happened since then, which is why we're doing this updated AI summer camp. So if that interests you, just follow us on social and you will not miss the announcement next week. Right now, it's just a teaser. So there'll be more stuff to come. And there's another question from Burak here saying, do you have any experience of conducting an analysis by fine-tuning to teach various methodologies, especially in the analysis of qualitative data? My question is about going beyond standard LLMs. Now, fine-tuning, I mean, if you're saying beyond standard LLMs, really, a lot of this stuff is standard LLM stuff. This is kind of what Vugar said earlier, is if you are using this, you're going to use it with a standard LLM. And ideally, if you're doing thematic analysis, probably going to use Gemini because of the larger context window, and then you're going to try and interact with that somehow. But if you mean fine tuning, as in like you can go to the playground in OpenAI and you can create a custom GPT basically, or a custom agent, and you could do that, of course. So you can then fine tune it with instructions. I would recommend, if you have no coding experience, just to do a custom GPT, because you don't even need to do it through the playground. You can just do it through ChatGPT here, and then you could just go to the GPTs, and then in the GPTs you could create a GPT, right? And then here you could name the GPT just something like thematic analyzer, and you could add a description if you want, and then here you would just put in the prompt, as in like, I will feed or act as a thematic analysis specialist with the Brown and Clark framework, maybe framework. And then you could feed it some of these Brown and Clark papers, and you could read it some of the other information that is in there, and then you could build it. And then here on the right hand side you could test it, but yeah, you can upload it, whatever files you want to upload, and you can have all of these other functionalities in there. But that is generally, yeah, what you could do if you wanted to do something more specific and just have like the same prompt. You could also do it as a project. Now in Claude and ChatGPT, you have the ability to do projects. So if we go back here, and if
but here I think we have to mention that it's kind of non-tech guy fine tuning. We don't work. So you and I, we don't know the coding. I mean, coding in a way that we can create our own tool and we can use the API of any standard LLM and then fine tune that tool based on the any qualitative research. I think there we don't have experience. But
yeah, okay.
But with the fine tuning, if you mean that like giving, like as you showed if you are create a custom GPT, giving it a custom instruction, I think even the whole chat GPT, you can give it a custom notes, custom instructions. So you can say that please do not be that agreeable with me since now, because chat GPT is usually very agreeable to anything you say to it. Maybe that instruction could be possible, but from tech perspective, so we are not tech guys, we haven't fine-tuned any tool, I would say. So
yeah, so let's talk about this because we're kind of running over time as well.
yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we also wanted to talk about this, and we've kind of already talked about it throughout this entire live stream. We've said, why it's usually easiest to just pick one, get your subscription done. Personally, I found this kind of cool with the AI chat functionality here. And then, yeah, having the ability to do different or select different models here and just kind of, or even mix them if we wanted to. That's kind of neat right now. This might change, stuff like that changes pretty quickly. But also one of the things that we wanted to bring forward is, so a lot of these have project functionality. So this is a project that we have here, and then we have a project here. So there's a Claude project and a ChatGPT project. And so one of the things that we noticed in ChatGPT is actually quite easy to delete a project. You can click on the little, kebab menu, and you can select the delete project button here. And then you would delete the project and it would be gone. Now in Claude, you can't actually do that. I have to unarchive it to show it again. So let's say we have a project like this one here that has like a nice little mega prompt and stuff like that. And then I want to go and delete it. I can't. I can only archive it. And this is interesting because we're like, usually Claude is like the better one when it comes to privacy and things like that. So how come you're not letting us delete our projects and then let them be gone? I can only archive it. And then as it's archived, as you can see, I can't even edit or change anything. I can't even access the files anymore, which is kind of annoying. I can, however, if I wanted to, delete the chats. So I could delete all of the chats and they're gone for good now. So that's like,
see if you can delete it now. I think still not. You can just unarchive it.
Unarchive it, and then here I am still stuck with what I have. So then if I really wanted to delete it, I'd have to delete all of the files separately. I'd have to go into the prompt, get the prompt out, and then clear instructions.
But
and
I think this kind of them might seem a little bit confusing. Maybe please couple of words what we can do with the project. What is project?
Oh yeah. I think if anyone is new to project, so project is basically like custom GPTs. So in a project space, like for example in Claude, you have this little site knowledge here, and in ChatGPT you have project files and instructions here. They all kind of work the same way. So you upload files that you want to have access to. Let's say you do a prompt very often and you always use the same files and you have like a lot of instructions. This is actually something I talked about in our last webinar, not the AI research tools ones, but in the one for UX designers, where I essentially showed people how I create these mega prompts. And if people are interested in that, we're going to roll that into the AI summer camp. So just say interested in the chat right now, and we'll definitely make sure to roll that into the AI summer camp, because I can show you the workflow for that. So it's basically how you make these models more useful for you. You create a lot of knowledge files, and then you create very specific system instructions. I actually have a prompt that generates a system prompt for me, which is kind of cool. And then you have all of these systems instructions ready. And then, as you can see here, mine are usually like with some sort of XML formatting that just makes it easier to know which is which, and describes in detail what's going on. And you could do the same thing here. So if you wanted to recreate this project, we just copy this system prompt here, put it in the project instructions in Claude, and then I'd have to download all of these files, which I actually can't do. Ha! Another issue. Like I can't even click on these files and recover them, right? Like how do I even get access to them? So this is something that I always find annoying about these tools. The same with Notion and other tools. It's really easy to get information in. It's not really easy to get information out, right? Like why? Anyways, fix that, AI companies. Why are you holding my files hostage? So I can delete them, but I can't just like download them easily. I guess I could double click on them. And then, no, I can't even do that. And Claude, at least I could double click on it and I could see them. So anyways, yeah, so then you could drag and drop files on here. So let's say I wanted to drag and drop our systematic review file on there. It would upload it and then have it as project knowledge, and all of the queries would run around that. So that's that, and that's one of the big issues that we discovered here, and that's kind of annoying too. And yeah.
And we have one question here. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe this one, and I have also one last
My answer
question.
is do not write a systematic review file on
papers. What
yeah.
do you
think? So
can you use any AI tool to work with 5K papers to write a systematic
review? So my recommendation, if I hear a question like that, is you need to refine your research question and your search query, because if your initial string is giving you 5,000 papers, then you're not doing a specific enough inquiry for a systematic review. So what I would recommend here, if that's what you're getting, then you need to put in some work. And this is why systematic reviews take 1 to 2 years. In our last one, and again, this is in the umbrella review that I linked earlier, that I showed earlier, we explained this process actually for my field, HCI in particular. But the idea is we worked with a lot of librarians on this as well. And essentially, you want to have something that is humanly manageable as an output result from your literature query. So if you're asking a question that's too broad, that's generating this results, one option might be you're getting a lot of false positives in there. So a lot of papers that are actually not relevant. And so even screening 5,000 papers is a lot of extra work, right? So sure, you could try and do that with the help of AI by just having it screen the abstracts and things like that. But like you're not actually working efficiently at that point. At that point, what I would recommend is work on that query, make exclusions. Again, there's Boolean operators. If you actually want to know how to do that, I can recommend I did actually just write about that in my recent newsletter. So if you're interested in that, I had this issue called 4 Strategic Planning Phases for systematic reviews, and for the paid subscribers, I actually had a breakdown in how to do Boolean logic here. And basically what you want to do is add some not queries in there, right? And say this or this or this, and then have an asterisk in there that kind of says, okay, this is how you could do that. And then, but not this other thing, or truncating things, or limiting it to certain authors, which again, if you use litmaps or other tools, you could try to narrow it down to some authors, and that would make things much easier. But that's really, that's what I would recommend. I would recommend to refine that idea there, and that would make it a little bit easier. And another question was, are there any standard research journals which are accepting research work using AI-based tools with limitations? What changes and what challenges are we witnessing in publishing? That's an excellent question. And I think the trick really is to check the journal guidelines. Every publisher is now releasing AI guidelines and releasing work. Usually a lot of the ones, even Nature has like disclosure policies. It's very important to disclose it during the process and disclose what you've used and what you've used it for. And there are still some journals that are completely saying not for this and not for that, and it's very like specific about what you can and cannot use. So this is depending for your field. We can't know this for every field, but I would always check those inclusion guidelines before you attempt to use AI first. And this boils down to research strategy. Again, in my newsletter, I actually, I don't know if I can find it, but I had a whole bunch of posts where I was actually talking about how to do your research strategy. And yeah, I can't find it right now, but that would also be a way that you could go about this and essentially understand, okay, first I got to identify a journal, I got to identify which niche in my field I'm going to do the literature review, even identify 2 to 3 journals, and then attempt to do the literature review. So that means you already read the guidelines before you start the literature review, so you kind of know where you're publishing. But in terms of AI friendliness, I don't think there's anything AI friendly. It's all a case-by-case basis. And again, you cannot circumvent disclosure, right? Like disclosure is always a super important part of this. And so I definitely recommend to have that in there as a key thing. I think that's it for questions, Vugar. I think we're through, and we're also kind of out of time because it's like lunchtime here and it's dinner time for you. So yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Great. I think one maybe final point I can make why, and maybe you can also take it as a question for
Of course.
why there are so many AI rappers using right now in the market, which is claiming that they are doing better than ChatGPT or other AI tools. I would
Yeah,
say, so I would answer this question in a way that yes, there are many tools right now, some of them really doing better than the frontiers like consensus because they have access directly to the publishers or to the
or fine
website
tune.
like
Yeah,
or like to the website like a semantic scholar and other stuff which is they are retrieving different documents, academic articles from these sources. By the way,
yeah,
semantic scholar is a very nice tool, so we are not affiliated, but I use that for my research as well. It's totally free, which is amazing. And if to find, I think any article, any academic article, of course, if they are, if you have to pay for article, you have to have your own subscription with them.
yeah.
But most of the AI tools right now we have in the market, I think most of them will disappear because people
Agreed.
will
Yeah.
start maybe learning how to use the frontier AI tools. But one drawback is there is that before working with these AI tools, you have to have your nice prompt for any task. Like if I start working on ChatGPT, for example, in order to have that nice working prompt, I spent like 2 3 hours just to have that working the best prompt in order to get
Exactly.
the best answer from that tool for my purposes. And I think
Agreed.
this is the tricky part where most of us do not spend enough time to come up with the best prompt for our task and then use the just frontier tools without navigating to any other specific tools. And what do you think about it? By the way, this is an excellent demo today, Leonard. Thank you for that.
Thanks. We
And
didn't even prep. We just did it. So yeah, just imagine how good that's going to be when we prep for the summer camp. But anyways, one of the things I think is important is a lot of money is to be made with these AI wrappers and tools, right? So it's a growing market, and there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of academics, I think, like really are looking for shortcuts or are just struggling with workload and are just trying to improve things somehow. There is really no need to buy every tool under the sun. Exactly what you said, Vugar. A lot of it is done with a good prompt, and you can just fix it, and that works really nicely. And yeah, again, we'll break that down as well in the future. But really, that's what it is. It's what you're paying for is laziness, right? Like instead of doing the legwork and actually, like, yes, you have to sit down first, you have to kind of understand how prompting works, then you have to write the prompt, and then you have to save the prompt somewhere and reuse the prompt, right? And maybe even create a project and like learn how to create these cool projects and make that happen. But that can save you a lot of time because you can actually like get it done in a similar way, and maybe the outputs are not formatted as nicely, or you still have to do some legwork to get it into something that is looking as nicely, but that's just presentation really, right? So I do think knowledge-wise, yeah, you can get a lot of stuff done with just the frontier models, and really they're kind of all catching up, right? Like some is always leading and then the other one introduces something else, but core functionality is specifically Gemini and now I'm blanking. ChatGPT and it's a bit too long. I've been talking too much. So Gemini, ChatGPT, and Anthropic's Claude, right? Like they're definitely all close. I mean, there's Grok as well. Academics don't like that as much because of Elon, but it is definitely a model that is out there in terms of capabilities. And some people that have a Twitter or X subscription get access to that as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, like that is definitely possible to get similar results there. And with that, I send you off into a beautiful weekend. Again, thank you so much for watching the show. You can find us on any one of your favorite podcasting apps. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more content like this, there are some things that you can do to support the show. First, you can hit subscribe in your favorite podcasting app so you never miss an episode. Search for the AI Academics if you haven't found us yet. Just takes a second to leave a like or leave a review for us. If you found value in this discussion, definitely leave that rating or comment on our YouTubes. And the feedback helps us improve the show and helps everyone else connect with us in a better way. Connect with us on social media if you want, where we share AI insights that you won't find anywhere else. So thank you so much for being part of today's episode, and see you again next week, I guess. Yeah.
Until next week. Ciao.
Ciao.